Ein sonniges Hallo aus San Diego, ich bin's, eure Vanessa. Wir sind für euch einmal um die halbe Welt gereist, denn hier in San Diego findet die nächsten 4 Tage die größte Comicmesse der Welt statt, die Comic-Con 2011.
Okay, before you ask though, I have, is this Justin Timberlake's rapper? Because if it is, I'm selling it on eBay.
Seriously.
Is it? Okay. All right.
Not happy?
Shoot.
Damon, how did the script evolve from being a native prequel to Prometheus and Charlize? How did you get involved with all this things? Because we're there in the beginning, right?
Was it what? What?
You were there in the beginning of the project.
No. No.
I came in about a year ago. Ridley first called me in like mid-July of last year, and I had never met him before, but obviously was a massive fan of his work and sort of trembling when he called me on the phone, and he said that he was going to send me a script, and that script was written by a guy named John Spates, and I think it had a lot of really cool ideas in it, but it was most definitely an Alien prequel, and I think Ridley really wanted to push the movie into sort of original territory. One of the pitfalls of a prequel, if you don't handle it right, is that the audience kind of knows what's coming because they've seen the sequel, they've seen the original movie. So, and he was also driven by these ideas, bigger sort of thematic ideas, about what this movie could be about, and we started having conversations, and as a result of those conversations, we worked very closely together for a couple of months, rewriting the script until he was satisfied that it felt like it was its own movie. And around that time, when it was still kind of in flux, that's when
Magic entered.
That's when Magic, aka Charlize, entered. And I think that you know, when you're first writing a movie, you're trying to get all the foundation, the building blocks of the story. Character kind of comes next, and when Ridley first mentioned that he felt that he could get Charlize to play this character in the movie, who was kind of a good character but pretty one-note, pretty two-dimensional, suddenly is like, you know, holy shit, this is an Academy Award winner, a movie star playing this bit part.
I don't have my wallet here.
Yeah.
Can I pay you later?
Yeah, no, it's okay. Oh, I thought you were going to take out your movie star card, which you showed me before. But suddenly it was, wow, if we're going to entice her to be in this movie, we're going to have to do some more work on this character. And then Ridley and Charlize started talking.
Yeah, I was in Malaysia, and my manager called and said, "I'm sending you this script that I've known Ridley for a couple of years socially, and so I knew that he was working on this, and I was supposed to go off to Australia to go do Mad Max. So I always listened with one ear because I was so jealous that, you know, I knew that there was no way that I could even consider being a part of it. So. And then when Mad Max pushed, he reached out to me and they sent me the script, and it was like, you know, read it in 30 minutes and it will explode. And it was like so secretive that I was like in the middle of a rainstorm on a mountain, like trying to read the script under a tree because it was the only place I could get reception. And I, you know, obviously there's like, you can ask any actor this. There's always that one director that's like that's like the dream, and Ridley was that for me. And I used to always joke when I had bad experiences with like first-time directors. I used to always turn to my producing partner, and I was like, I want to fucking work with Ridley Scott. I'm so tired of this shit. I want to be around someone who knows what they're doing. I was like, takes control. And so he was always that guy that I always kind of fantasized. So obviously for me, I really wanted it to work out. I didn't want to hinder the movie in any way. But I thought that there was great potential to kind of explore the themes that the movie was already exploring through the eyes of a character that was so different from everybody else who's kind of on this mission. You know, you have these scientists that kind of like are going out there. One is a believer, one really isn't. You play on all these themes, but to kind of experience all of that stuff from the point of view of somebody who's kind of comes from a much more a cold economic business kind of suit sense of it, and who kind of we then explored when Damon and I spoke to kind of explore how to make her more layered. That was when I really got excited. I mean, it was incredible, and you know, I said this to you in London, and I don't know if you heard me, but there's something incredible when you see that potential and you really want it to work out, and you know, you're like 2 months away from shooting, and you get on the phone with a writer and you say, you know, you're just like batshit crazy going, I don't know, but like, what if, like, and you're just throwing like these crazy ideas at someone who you admire, and then, you know, it was like a week and a half later I got this draft, and I was just like, wow, it's really flattering. And so I was really excited to kind of be partners with him and with Ridley to kind of go and do this.
Damon, you're obviously, you know, a big Comic-Con guy, been here with Lost and all these other things. What's it like to come back with a movie that you wrote as opposed to a TV show, and is it sort of frustrating that it's, again, something you can't really tell us much about?
I seem to, I have to take responsibility for the fact that I keep sort of gravitating towards this, you know, towards things that have a little bit of mystery around them. And I know that certainly Lost has taken its rightful lumps for the idea of, you know, perhaps being a little bit too secretive, but I really feel like this was Ridley's thing, and at this phase in my career, it's been really exciting to, after having the responsibility of Lost, which was kind of my thing, or mine and Carlton's thing, to kind of be in the service of someone who, you know, really inspired me to do this job, and I really learned so much from Ridley, just the way that he thinks and the way that he talks, and the fact that this wasn't we have a meeting and I go off and I write a draft. He and I were sitting across a table from each other, you know, talking about each scene and his vision for the scene, and he's very visual. He draws things on like little napkins and pushes them across the table with me, and I'm like, I'm fucking keeping this napkin forever. and I have to constantly keep sort of pinching myself about the experience that I'm having, and I do feel that the movie comes out a year from now, and I can guarantee you all that our desire to sort of keep secrets is really just driven by the fact of we don't want to tell you everything about the movie right now. I think you're going to start seeing a lot of very cool things probably in the late fall, and certainly in January and February of next year. They're going to start sort of overtly declaring what Prometheus is, so that by the time you buy your ticket, it's not going to be, oh my God, what the hell is this movie? But at the same time, we do want to kind of keep that fun interplay alive. I think a lot of what's driving interest in this movie is this idea of like, well, exactly just what the fuck is it? And by calling it Prometheus, we're certainly not doing anybody any favors by just saying like, this thing is called Batman. It's going to be about Batman. It's you know, it's a slightly headier, and you know, that we sort of joke about it, but it, you know, a pretentious title potentially, and so we understand that the bar is very high. But I think that, you know, for Ridley to be coming back to this genre, for him to be directing a movie in 3D for the first time, he's shooting it in 3D, it's not a conversion, just the way that it's going to look and the way that it's going to feel has to be special. And part of the game is, you know, being a little bit secretive about it, and I like to keep secrets.
Mysterious.
Yeah.
It's much sexier
Mysterious.
than secret.
It is, yeah.
It is.
Okay, I'll do that.
Charlize, one of the interesting things about the sci-fi genre is it really allows women to be more empowered than it seems like in other types of movies. I mean, you definitely, with Aeon Flux, you got a chance to really kick some ass and stuff. So I was just wondering if you could just talk a little bit about it from that perspective. And growing up, were there women role models for you of that type? And was the sci-fi genre the one that afforded you those role models?
I mean, Ripley is like the classic, right? I mean, for any girl that ever saw that, I was like, yeah, it's time to dance, you know? Like, I mean, I think that Ridley really, I do think that he was the first person who really took full advantage of how you could explore not only that genre, but themes that I think mostly men in cinema had been allowed to explore. And the great thing about him is that I think it lives under his skin. I think he has that kind of view of women. He naturally carries that. Because I found like a lot of this, you know, after we had kind of talked about doing a rewrite on the role, and you throw all those layers in, the way he shoots women, he's constantly layering, he's constantly adding. And I think it's a pretty special thing for a male director to have that awareness constantly of like, how can you kind of elevate this every single day, even if it's not on the page. And I think he does that, he has that innately in him, because I think he feels that way about women. He likes those kind of women. And so, what was the question? I feel like I'm just like...
No, that was terrific. But specifically with your character in this, I mean, one
Oh, no, she's not strong. No. She's complete. No, she's... what is she? Oh,
about
God.
female empowerment. I mean,
yeah.
Because she's incredibly central to the role. I presume she's a protagonist. That
she's look, one of the first conversations I had with Ridley about her, because she is really the suit. She's kind of the one that runs the company that's kind of put this whole thing together, and we're talking about a lot of money the first conversation I ever had with Ridley, he always kind of brings it back and grounds it to, like, reality. And it was like, all these tycoons, and some of them are in trouble right now. Not going to say any names, but those kind of families that kind of run parts of...
This is very topical.
Yeah, isn't it? And you tend to sometimes find, like, I don't know, like I watch like the Trump family, for instance, and I'm sure the boys do a lot. I don't really know them, but like I know Ivanka Trump, like she's running that shit. That women kind of who come from those environments like tend to do really well, and I think there's something about a girl kind of being in the shadow of her father. Those are interesting themes to kind of play upon if you're kind of creating this woman who comes from incredible strength and kind of, just real balls. So I don't ever set out to play a character with strength. I kind of try and find the circumstance and try to be as honest as I can in those circumstances. I think there's nothing faker than kind of stepping in the wardrobe and the shoes of a character that doesn't authentically own those characteristics. So it was really kind of once we all kind of understood the world that she can, where we wanted to go with her, how and what we wanted to explore with her, that that kind of just, that seeps in, and you all of a sudden you put that suit on and you're just like, yeah, I want to order somebody around, and you just kind of find it.
Last question here.
I think that one thing that's difficult for 3D movies to pull off is having a dark tone, especially visually, and pulling off the 3D with obviously the way it darkens in the theater. So what's some ways that you've been able to apply naturally a way that allows us to experience this in the best light possible, no pun intended, but...
That was good.
Yeah.
When Ridley decided to direct the movie in 3D, and I think that he could probably much better answer that question than we can, but he understood that that was going to be one of the profound challenges of the movie, and I think one of the things that was really important to him was in terms of the constructions of the sets, that the movie was shot on the Bond stages at Pinewood, and they're just these humongous, expansive sets, and so...
And everything is built.
Yeah, if you're building a ship, he just built the ship.
No, it was ridiculous, because I was working for like 3 weeks, and I was like, where's the green screen, man? And he was like, I'm not doing green screen. And he was like, I'm not, what are you talking about? And I was like, this is like a sci-fi movie. Like, I know, I've never been on a sci-fi movie, but in my head, I was like, oh, we're going to be in front of green screen for like... But like Damon's not kidding, everything was built, and if it wasn't built, if you were looking out a window of a ship and what you were looking at, he would have computerized, like done these CGI imaging that kind of played the scene for you of what was happening outside. And so it just grounds everything so much for actors. It's all there, so it's all physically being lit.
And I've never been on the set of a movie that was actually shooting in 3D before, so anytime you walked into Video Village, there were essentially 5 massive HD screens. You walk in, you get a pair of glasses, and you can see the shot, and you suddenly understood that even on the production design level, the movie was designed by this guy, Arthur Max, who did Fight Club, a number of David Fincher's movies. Like, oh my God, they actually designed this movie for 3D. So that Ridley is a shot maker. He makes beautiful art. And so the idea of going in post and then suddenly putting things in there digitally is not going to happen in this movie. And therefore, I feel it answers, any movie that's going to be in 3D has to be able to answer the question that you just asked, which is, can you justify this being in 3D? Why should it be in 3D? I think the answer to that question for Prometheus is that it creates a very immersive environment the idea that you're in sometimes very confined spaces, sometimes incredibly wide open spaces, but the only way to really trick your brain into feeling you're in the movie, going through these experiences with these characters, is that the 3D helps bring you into that immersive environment. And just based on what I've seen so far, I think it's you know, probably one of the most visionary and visual directors in the world has finally used this medium. I think it's going to be pretty special.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, super quickly. Done.
Guys, we've got to go. Honestly, we've got guys. I'm sorry. We've got to go. We've got to go.
Okay.
Guys, maybe we're so late. We've got to go.